Reluctant Messenger Unleashed Nation, we want to welcome you to episode 26, the second part of our bonus section on the tools from our Consciousness Awareness Toolbox. And this is the final episode in the Reluctant Messenger Unleashed. I'm your host, Donna Rebido, and with me is author Candy Sanderson. Candy, can you believe the journey we've had during these 26 episodes?
Hey, Donna, it has been so interesting. And you know what? This all started when I was a guest on your Exploring Consciousness podcast. And that's when your guides decided, hey, here's a new idea. It would be good for you to start this YouTube channel, The Reluctant Messenger Unleashed. Now, I don't think either of us had any idea what was in store for us. But going through each chapter as we prepare for the episodes, we both learned so much. We gained new insight, and sometimes we were actually recording, and these new ideas and new perspectives would come to us. But remember this, Donna, I'll never forget when your screen turned green. And that was right when I was talking about that pink and green energy that represented angels. That was like, I don't know, magical. But for sure, this has been an unbelievable journey. And thanks to you, Donna, and your guides.
Yeah, Candy, you're welcome. And yes, I remember that episode, and it was magical for both of us because I was like, what is going on? And we've become such good friends since you were a guest on Exploring Consciousness. I can't believe it. Seems like we've been friends forever. And even though we're wrapping up this final episode, we will always remain close friends. On that note, let's start where we left off on this bonus episode. Let's dive right in.
Okay, Donna, here we go. But before I jump in right now, I want everyone to look at the model that you see on the screen. We're going to briefly review that again because it helps us really understand the tools. Our formula that we discussed in the last episode is straight from the messengers. Energy follows thought, and action follows energy. So it's thought, energy, action. We have two operational components, two systems that run in the background. One is the emotional guidance system, and that's our quality control. And what's important is it is based on the fuel that we give it. The second system is our GPS system, and it recognizes all of the energy frequencies. And it will drop a pin when we go to the 5D, and it stores any locations we visit so we can go back and return at will. And one thing that's just as important, it always guides us back home. We broke the tools down according to their purpose. We have protection, we have movement, and we have an instrument panel, which is that dashboard. And a lot of tools fall in more than one category. We use the slider, for example, to navigate the 5D. So it's a movement tool, but it's also an instrument. So we put it on the dashboard, and once we pull it from that dashboard, it sets its movement properties in motion. So, okay, we're up to date. So I'm just going to jump right in where we left off. Meditation is like bringing our dreams into waking reality. I realize there's this almost magical link between dreaming and meditation. Now, both states represent expanded awareness, where our POE operates within the energy body, within the field, not the physical one. Meditation and or prayer is intentional. It's more difficult to stay alert, for example, during dreaming. It's hard to really stay lucid. So by using the energy body instead of the physical body to experience life, it offers us a greater perception, especially when we're communicating within the 5D. That's when we can use meditation and or prayer instead of just dreaming. So they are perfect tools that fall in the movement category. We can move from 3D to 5D just like we do in dreams, but this time with control and with awareness.
And that's a great example, and it makes perfect sense to me. But using by using meditation or prayer as a tool, it's a natural doorway to reach the 5D energies. So let's return to our formula. Energy follows thought, action follows energy. Energy follows any thoughts that we have. We can look at this in a couple of different ways. First, let's think of this formula in terms of setting intentions. We can use this for patterning, establishing what we want to happen. We can do this whether it's in real time, so we can use it in the 3D, like finding a parking space in a crowded lot, or planning for future events, or for remote perception. So we can use this in lots of different ways. So now we're talking about applications. Once we realize that energy follows thought, action follows energy, we can apply that in almost everything, like intentions. We discussed this back in chapter 2, Good Vibrations. So can you remind us about that? Can you tell us again about that, Candy? Because you had a vision that really helped clarify that.
Yes, I remembered this. Let me give a little bit of background for the listeners. I was getting ready to go to bed, and I was thinking about all the messages that I had received that day. The messengers were telling me that energy was the basis of everything we do and say and think and feel. I know that now, but back then I didn't. So these were new concepts for me. The messengers kept talking about energy matches and vibrational matches, and how we as humans are vibrational beings. So I went to bed, all these thoughts on my mind. When I woke up the next morning, they must have worked with me during my dreams, but I didn't remember it. But when I woke up the next morning, voila, I had the answers. I had this vision about energy packets that floated around in structures that looked like those beautiful cumulus clouds. Those energy packets exist as potential, pure potential, until a thought from our formula, which would be a desire, a prayer, and an intention, is set. Just like with our model, our formula, a new thought starts a chain of events in motion, okay? So that causes this cloud's energy components to shift, and they match the vibrations of the thought or the outcome that I want. So as our thoughts change, these packets will recombine and they'll drift to the forefront of the cloud, so that our current thought is always at the front of the cloud. That way they're in like direct position, direct contact with the person or the people who had the thought or the intention. It made perfect sense. It's like, oh my gosh, that's how the law of attraction works. It also made me realize how important it is to hold and maintain our initial thought or intention. Because as soon as you doubt the outcome of your prayer, your wish, your thought, your intention, those energy packets will split and they rearrange to match the vibration of your newest thought, which would be the thought of doubt. So thoughts are that first variable in the formula. So if we make a misstep here, Donna, it throws everything off. How? So if we doubt, then we start to fuel that quality control system with that low octane fuel of fear or doubt. And then that's going to change the actions, of course.
You know, Candy, when I read that part of the book, I was smiling and nodding my head because this vision of the energy packets and the clouds was so simple, but it really helped explain this power of setting your intention and maintaining your intention. So I started imagining those energy packets inside the cloud. And I would set an intention, so it was easy to see the energy packets start to shift around and move toward the front so they can connect with my intention. It made it real, made it easier. But sometimes things sneak up on you and you think you're keeping that original intention, but doubt can creep in without you knowing it. You say, oh, can I really do this? What am I doing? Oh, it's my left brain. No, Donna, you can't do that. But what's really important here is that it's important for me as a pilot because we have to look outside the airplane. You have to look, the best instrument on the plane is our eyes. So you're looking outside, but I constantly have been taught to glance at the instrument panel, see what's going on. It's kind of like a radar screen. So I see and I hear a blip when the target changes. I actually put that in my intention. So if doubt sneaks in and those energy packets start to shift and rearrange, it stops me in mid thought. And I know to bring it back. I just like I look down on my dashboard and I see, oh, I really missed that one. It gets me back on course. So this tool is one of the permanent features on my dashboard, a real-time reminder. So I can look around, I can go, oh, and I'll take a quick look at those energy packets. So see if my thoughts or intentions are changing. It's perfect.
Donna, that is a great instrument for the dashboard, using it like a radar screen
Yeah.
to monitor those energy packets. So that's fabulous. Thank you. Thank you.
And doubt creeps in. A lot of times we're harder on ourselves than anybody. And when doubt creeps in, it affects that quality control system. It's automatic. So you don't want to accidentally change to low octane fuel. Let's just shift here for a minute to go. Let's just shift here and do a review about using high octane fuel of the heart to power our quality control. Remember, that's what raises our vibrations in the energy field in a positive manner. It puts our energy body in a state that's more expansive. And that's really important because you need to understand that. Our energy body in a more expansive state. It makes us more receptive to subtle energies. And that's really important to me. It took me a long time to be receptive to subtle energies. And don't gloss this over, I mean that. So let me give you an example of that in acupuncture. And I think you're going to laugh at this. I think, Candy, you're going to probably laugh at this. But what they did in school to make our fingertips more sensitive to subtle energies, because that's what we use our hands. So what they did was, an assignment was, and you're going to laugh, they said, get a Bible, because the pages are really thin in a Bible, and pull out a hair, just one hair. You put it between two pages in the Bible. And then you take your finger and you feel that for the hair. You feel, where's the hair? Until you feel like, oh, I know where it is. I can feel that. So when you do that, guess what? You're not done. It says, put it between 2 pages and do that. And then 3 pages and do that. And so you really have to get really, really sensitive. And at the end of the semester, they said, how many pages? Well, I made it through 4, but if you do it, you let me know how 4 pages feel looking for one hair, especially older when it's thinner and grayer. Can't find it. So, but how do we bring it into heart energy? I told you a little bit about how to make yourself subtle energies in your physical body.
All right, so let's talk about heart energy. But first, I love that about using those, I
Yeah.
started to say paper thin, but those ultra thin pages of a Bible and feeling the hair. But I have 2 grandkids, and they spent the night with me last night, and they're so much fun. They're ages 5 and 9, and I'm always reading them stories. I'm always reading stories to them, fairy tales. That sounds just like the Princess and the Pea story. All those mattresses to determine if you were a true princess, if you felt that pea under like 2 billion
Yeah,
mattresses.
whatever. Yeah.
That's great. But let's talk about heart energy.
Okay.
Here's a small but very powerful way to jumpstart heart energy. Smile. Donna, you don't even have to mean it. Once you fake a smile, your brain does not know the difference. Which really says a lot about our brains. Um, but your brain will respond by a smile, by producing this hormonal rush that will send endorphins into your entire system. And the end result, you breathe a little deeper, your blood pressure drops, your pain levels decrease, you don't feel as stressed, and it is high octane fuel to crank up your emotional guidance system. It's quick and easy. If you find yourself going down a rabbit hole you don't want to be in, just stop and smile. Because once we're in these higher vibrations, the stage is then set for our energy recognition system, or GPS, to make positive connections like with angels and guides. And then we can really start exploring these divine realms. Donna, let's talk about the tool of using our brains as radio tuners. We can use our brain's tuner knobs to do a deep dive into those files that are already held in memory by our GPS. We can dial into those bookmarked frequencies. And then when we connect with a new energy system, for example, somewhere we haven't been before, that GPS locks onto those signals and files them away. And we know that we have those tuner knobs that we can use to help us find those frequencies as well too.
I love that. Yeah. We need to use those. In fact, let's go ahead and see how we can use the ladder of enlightenment. And I love that image. So, ladder of enlightenment. I remember you saying during the podcast that you use it to achieve what Bob Monroe used to call escape velocity. So, think about that. It's a way to expand so fast. And I just imagine myself climbing up that ladder, but really, really fast. And when I reach the top, like you did in your experience, I let go and fly.
Well, same here, Donna. I just zip up that ladder and I use it like a launch pad and I just rocket off the top of it. And then I find myself, I'm just like drifting out among the stars. I'm deep in the cosmos. But for me, that ladder of enlightenment is such a powerful tool. Now, it's one that's in the movement category as well as an instrument on the dashboard. It's right there. I actually pull it off and use it. But here's another tool. Remember that cage of light? I had a cage of light that spontaneously covered my body when I needed some protection. It's easy to build that cage or just to put that cage around me whenever I need like an added layer of protection. Sometimes I'll put it around my bed before I go to sleep at night, and that cage actually keeps any kind of bad dreams or nightmares from coming in. Let's talk about another one of the protection tools in our toolbox. Monroe talks about a REBAL. A REBAL is an acronym for a resonant energy balloon. It's a bubble of energy that surrounds and protects us. Let me demonstrate building a bubble of energy. You can do this without hand movements, but I think it makes it a little easier to visualize when I use my hands to demonstrate. And plus, I've added a bit to what Monroe says. Well, that's not really true. I haven't added. It's the messengers have given me a few added things. But basically, I start by taking a deep breath. When I do that, it centers me. But what I do is I put my hands in prayer position right at my heart. I actually use my thumbs to touch my heart, and that's just another like little indicator, like, all right, heart, wake up. But I know that I'm ready and my heart's ready to work its magic. So when I inhale, I'll move my hands still in prayer position up to the top of my head like this. I'm at the top of my head. I move my hands, and I have to back up a little bit, where the palms are facing out. And then that's when I begin to exhale. So as I exhale, I'm bringing the energy down around me. And Donna, when I do this, I can actually feel it covering my body. It feels like this thin satin-like sheet of energy, and it flows all around me. But I bring that energy all the way down to my feet. And then I tuck it in under my feet, and I bring that energy back up through the soles of my feet, my legs, into my spine, and back where I had begun at the heart center. So I've just made one huge pass. I'm going to do this 2 more times. I'm going to breathe in again and repeat the process. But this time, the next time when I bring the energy out of my head, I'm going to twirl it around in one direction when it falls to my feet. It doesn't matter what direction it is, because with the next pass, I'm going to reverse that direction. So I thought that was really cool that the messengers had me do that. But Donna, step back, be the observer, and look at that.
That looks like a,
Monroe didn't call it this, but look what we've just done. We've just built a torus field
huh.
around us. We are in the center. In fact, when we did this, I didn't even know it was called a torus field.
Of course not.
But here's another little trick that I've learned from the messengers. If you're working with someone, like maybe you're going to do a psychic reading with them or you're going to do healing, what you can do is you can drape that energy over the other person. And what does that do? That puts both of you, or it could be a group of you,
Mhm.
in the same bubble, in the same sacred space. Now we can add additional protections to this toroidal field. We can put in that cage of light around it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh, we can add mirrors to the outside of the bubble so no one can see in. The messengers have told me many, many times, whatever you imagine, you create.
Wow. Whatever you. Don't gloss over that. Remember, whatever you imagine, you create. It's a little different than imagining a pile of gold bars sitting in front of you and you're a gazillionaire. We're not being flippant. We're talking about energy here. So don't gloss over that. And in martial arts, my guides were saying, use this as an example. When you do energy with your hands, it's called a mudra. So you're doing a mudra, which is moving energy. And then we have what, if you can't visualize that, you can start with what we call a chi ball. So put your hands together until you can feel them normally repel. So you're doing that. You're creating a chi ball, so it's a round object. You keep doing that and move it further, further out. And then I put that right over my heart, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to use your exercise after that. So I'm going to create a chi ball and then go right into yours. That's really powerful. And again, whatever I imagine, I'm going to create that. And you combine what we learned from the Monroe and what the messengers have told you, and I've added my martial arts, very powerful. And again, we're showing you that you can make it your own. So adding on to this is also one of my favorites, and you've kind of guided me on this one, is using those crystals. And so you can use the quartz crystal to amplify our energy. But you can use any other gemstones around you to protect you, and you can look that up. There's lots of books on crystals and their qualities. But I have mine embedded in the dashboard. I just touch the crystal quartz to amp up the energy. But I can touch any specific one, like you said, like tourmaline or hematite, if I need to be grounded. So you can pick and choose what you want and put it on your dashboard. So let's move on. We're going to talk a little bit about your super duper energy gun to zap nerve endings. But you might develop another tool does the same thing. And I know Tom Campbell has us imagine a gingerbread man, and you're going to erase the things on their body that aren't good for you. So, all right. This all goes back to our formula of energy follows thought and action follows energy. So, like that movie with Kevin Costner, The Field of Dreams, he said, build it and they will come. So, whatever tool you use will bring those healing patterns and frequencies to you. So, it's really powerful. But I talked a little bit about what I do. So, using the formula, what do you do?
I love that idea of a gingerbread man from Tom Campbell. That's perfect. You know, in order to tell you what I do, I have to actually think about it because
Yeah.
it is just so automatic now. But let's use the realms of light as an example. Now, our listeners will remember that that's a dimension where ascended masters hang out. So I set the intention. That's the thought. That's that first step in the formula. So I set the intention, the thought to visit the realms of light. Next comes energy. I ramp up my energy field by bringing in positive energy from my heart. So I'm now fueling that quality control of the emotional guidance system for positive action. Now it's time to bring in the tools. I can use different tools to go to the same place. I kind of just let my intuition tell me what I need to use. But I will use that brain as a radio tuner on my dashboard to just twist in and turn to find just that right frequency for the realms of light. Now I can find it because I've already been there. That energy recognition system, that GPS, has it bookmarked. Maybe I want something a little extra to boost me. So I might rest my hand on a quartz crystal that I have embedded in my dashboard while I pull out my ladder of enlightenment. Then I'm all charged up. I zoom up the ladder of enlightenment and I do a swan dive into those divine frequencies of the other dimension. And that very last part of the formula, we have thought, energy, action. And the action is, I'm there. My GPS works its magic, and I find myself in the realms of light. So, what about you, Donna? Share with us what you do.
Let me share with you when I go to the Dragonfly Nebula. So you guys can look up the Dragonfly Nebula. But the one I use is the Crystalline Grid. But before I can tell you how I use it, you have to tell people how the Crystalline Grid works, please. Then I
Okay,
can tell you how I use it.
all right. Well, let's think about the crystalline grid as a tool. First of all, it's crystalline in nature. What does that mean? It's made of powerful crystals. That is so significant. And this grid covers the earth. So it rests above our atmosphere. And it serves more than one purpose. First of all, it's a protection for our planet. It protects us from unwanted cosmic contacts. But it's also an interface. It's an interdimensional veil that connects the 3D with the 5D. According to the messengers, the grid itself is fixed. It doesn't move. And it's made of energy, and the earth rotates in the center of it. And because it's rotating, there are different juncture points on the grid. And so as the earth rotates, we continue to just connect to those hubs. But these hubs, these junctures, are communication hubs. So we connect to the grid through our energy. It's like a little stream of energy that goes up and latches onto the grid through these hubs. Now, when that happens, our energy signatures are carried throughout the rest of the grid. And from there, Donna, we can do several things depending on what our intention, our thought was. If we want to connect with star beings, for example, then our energy would move through the grid and out the other side to make a contact with the cosmic friend. If our thought is to connect with someone in 3D, for example, then our energy signatures zips around the grid until they reach a hub closer to whomever we want to connect with. Now, I say zips around because it looks like that when I see it. There's this like lightning like movement, but something else occurs. And I didn't really know this until I started thinking about this yesterday. What happens is the grid changes our frequencies so that it will match with whomever or whatever we want to connect. The messengers have told me in the past that the grid, we know it's crystalline, but it is actually alive.
Mhm.
So now I'm seeing its intelligence in action as it matches the energy patterns of our thoughts with whomever or whatever we want to connect with. Might be another person in 3D, might be an angel or a guide in 5D. Now, keep in mind that our GPS is actively in use here, working in the background. So when the grid makes that desired connection, our energy recognition system flags it, it bookmarks it for future use. Let's back up and think about that grid again as a crystal. Donna, that is such huge added value. That's how and why the crystalline grid can be so effective for boosting our communications with those on Earth, as well as those in other dimensional spaces in the 5D. You know, Donna, a crystalline grid surrounding the Earth was initially so bizarre for me. I remember thinking, this is absolutely crazy. And I Googled real fast as soon as I got it. And there were like all millions and millions of hits. And I thought, okay, so everyone in the world knows about a crystalline grid but me. But later, just at the very last, when I'm getting ready to, do the final edits for the book, this book magically appears. It's by medical anthropologist Alberto Villoldo, and the book is Shaman, Healer, Sage. And he writes about shamans who have always used this crystalline grid, this luminous grid that surrounds the earth. They use that to communicate. And I'm thinking, this is just so cool. But Donna, tell us, how do you use this grid?
Okay, now that you understand that, I use it. The guides have chosen that they thought I'd be a good worker because I'm an acupuncturist. So just like I work on the bodies of people here in the 3D to repair it. So this is going to seem really out there, bizarre. I don't care. I go out there and work on the grid to help repair it. So just like I do acupuncture in the 3D, I'm a grid worker in the 5D to heal parts of the crystalline grid. So a lot of times I know I was out there because I wake up exhausted. I go, I was out working on the grid. And sometimes I do it intentionally to go to specific places. There's a specific places I go on the 3D and specific places I go on the 5D. But I expand my consciousness, just like we've been talking about. But this time I travel to one of the grid's junctions. So I know it's a communication tool. So I'll go up there with that intention and to move out to the Dragonfly Nebula. And there I have a lot of really good friends out in the Dragonfly Nebula. You can look that up and see that there is a Dragonfly Nebula. So I've been there, so the GPS works to get me there, but the grid makes it quicker. So the Ladder of Enlightenment could just get me out to the cosmos to play, but when I want to go really specific places, that's when I'll use the crystalline grid. And then people need to know, if you've asked to be on my prayer list, or you want me to send energy or healing for specific intentions, or if I'm using it for family and friends, I use the crystalline grid. And I like what you said about changing the energies so I can match the energy of the person that I'm communicating with. And I usually do it while they're sleeping. So I look at the time of day around the world, because I get people from around the world asking me. And what I do is that when I connect with them, what I say to them is this: I love you. I have so much love for you. I just want you to know that you're loved. I want you to know in your heart how much love I'm sending you. In addition, I'm sending you healing. And I have a bunch of my friends here, and we are sending healing to you in your energy body. And so your energy body can then make that connection to your physical body. So I kind of use it that way.
Wow.
I get there quicker. What helps me is for people to know, I get there using Bob Monroe's focus levels in his binaural beats to get to the further out I need to go, the higher the focus level I use. And another tool that we need to talk about that I just thought about too, we need to talk about changing perspectives. And since we covered an entire chapter on changing perspectives, I'm now understanding it better. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yes. And Donna, it is all about choosing a perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You know what? This might be the best tool yet. And it's actually a perfect one for us to end with. Now, changing perspectives is represented by that EZ button on the dashboard. We can use our POE to rise above the drama and the trauma that we experience in the 3D. We can be so petty at times. We overreact to unimportant things. But changing our perspective helps us find that silver lining in so many situations. My daughter, Cassie, is always saying, assume positive intent. And that's so important. When something happens that doesn't sit well with me, I try not to go down that rabbit hole of, well, something's wrong, or someone's being mean to me, or someone's not, being cooperative or kind. Instead, I take a deep breath. I hit that EZ button on the dashboard, and then I tap a crystal or two to ramp up that EZ energy. Doing that just gives me space for a reset. So I've stopped the bleed, and now the situation can unfold in a natural, positive way. Hitting that easy button just set aside any kind of preconceived notions or any kind of doubt that would have interfered with an outcome, which is the action in our formula. So I'm totally aware in the present moment because I can see it on the dashboard. That radar that you talked about before, a quick glance at that screen that's monitoring my thought in real time with those energy packets. I see those energy packets and whether they're still on target. If not, not only do I see them, I have that blip I can hear. If they're not on target, I readjust my thoughts if they drift. So now, with that easy button, there's an easy reset in action, and things will then become positive and unfold because I've just fueled that emotional guidance system with some of that super high octane fuel of love, compassion, joy, kindness, and sacred space. I've just readjusted if doubt tries to creep in the way. You know, Donna, the ability to change our perspectives is so important. We may not be able to see the greater picture in real time, but just knowing that there is a larger picture, a higher perspective is so powerful. And that's what keeps our fuel at those high octane levels. And why I'm just now understanding why we are using the fuel of hope. It's isn't that cool? I mean, thank you, guides.
Doing it
It's
again.
deja vu. It's using our heart energy of hope. It elevates our moods. It's using positive intent with everyone and everything that we see. It's learning to go through life through the eyes of kindness and joy. Those are some of the most valuable tools there are.
I love that. So true, Candy. That's I love how they popped in, how to have hope. My uncle was a prisoner of war in World War II on the Bataan Death March, and they asked him how did he survive. He survived through hope. He could see the future, and he was very hopeful for the future, and the people around him, couldn't do that. So that's really powerful to me. And that dashboard is really huge. And I want you to visualize this if you have a really good imagination. If you saw the animated cartoon, I think it's from Disney, and it's about emotions, and it's called Inside Out. If you haven't, at least go see that movie. And there's a big control panel with emotions, and that's what I want you to imagine. That's our dashboard or your dashboard is that big control center. It's control, control. You can do it. Okay. So it's like that. We're empowering you to visualize such a control center for yourselves. When we talk about these tools from Candy's book, The Reluctant Messenger, Tales from Beyond Belief.
And now we're just about ready to hit a few more buttons here. One is the publish button for the second edition of The Reluctant Messenger. Done. We're going to do that. Yes, as promised, that second edition of The Reluctant Messenger is published. We've just added about 50 pages to the first edition. Next is to push the activation button on my instrument panel. Done. What I've done is I've just turned on my 5D dashboard. All of those tools that we've discussed are ready for me to use. I also see that this dashboard completely surrounds me. I'm in the center of it on a chair with wheels so I can spin around at ease. How do you see yours? These are your tools. Arrange them whatever way you see fit. You might also find that you go in one day to access them and they've changed on their own. Don't forget though, there's always room for more tools. This entire series has been about unleashing the reluctant messenger, Tales from Beyond Belief. Now, the messengers gave me this title, and the subtitle part, Tales from Beyond Belief, well, that's because I had to move beyond my belief system that had tethered me to the 3D world. I only believed what my five senses could measure. That is until the messengers dropped into my life on August 28th, 2013. Now, the longer subtitle of the book, An Ordinary Person's Extraordinary Journey into the Unknown. With our new dashboard, our movement tools and protection tools, we can journey into the far reaches of the 5D, picking up newer tools with each adventure. We can also learn to use each tool that we have a little differently. But as we continue our journey into the unknown, our paths lead us into new horizons where we're going to just learn, have the new tools. We'll learn to use things differently. I absolutely love it. But now we are empowered.
Got the red pill. So we've come to the end. We've covered a lot. And some of the concepts might take you a while to fully understand them. So if you didn't get it during this first pass, you might want to click on the first episode of the bonus section and watch that one again and this one again. When you're done, see it again and then watch Inside Out. I love that. Candy, I want to personally thank you for all the work that you've done, both on your book and this YouTube channel. Folks, this is a lot of work. Candy, you are an outstanding person, a tireless worker, and a great friend. Don't you make me cry. This is a very brave thing for you to do, to put yourself and your words out into the public where you don't know what's going to happen. And I've never heard you complain, whine, or have any issues. And you've put up with a lot of the stuff I've made you had to redo and re-edit. But I want to share this. Candy Sanderson, you are a great, great friend to me.
Donna, you're not supposed to make me cry.
Yes, it's my job.
But I mean, this is really such a joyous time. You know, I mean, we've done it. We've taken those nudges, and sometimes they haven't been that gentle. But we've taken those nudges from your guides, and we've done it. I mean, look where we began. We were two strangers. I was a guest on your Exploring Consciousness podcast. And look at us now. I mean, rarely a day goes by that we don't communicate.
Yeah.
And not usually it's not just once.
No.
You have become such an important part of my life. We laugh. We say that we're twins. I live my life vicariously through all these adventures that you have. You are my soul sister, no doubt about that. And I don't have the words my words are not adequate to thank you, my dear friend. I love you, Donna.
Love you, Candy. We want to thank everyone who has followed us in our virtual book club through all the chapters of The Reluctant Messenger. Thank you so much for subscribing, sharing. You mean a lot to us. It's the reason why we're doing this. But the teacher in me has to end it. You've got the tools. Don't forget to use them. Now I get to say, we'd love you to subscribe, like, share our episodes on YouTube. There's a share button below. Use it. That's your homework. That's it for now. Bye.
And I love that we've ended with, that's your homework. Now do it.